Alright, so I could buy one of these, or I could buy 13 of these. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're going to be checking out the Atari 2600 Plus and this old Atari TV game system plug-in-your-TV thingy. So I'm going to confess up front that I had no intention of buying an Atari 2600 Plus. I think they look great, I think they're really neat, but I was probably not the target audience for these. I love everything Atari, but I've already got the VCS, I've got the Game Station Pro, I've got a tiny little Atari 2600 player thingy. I've got plenty of ways to play Atari, and I do believe the nostalgia is pretty cool and what they've done with it is pretty neat. But like I said, I didn't have any plans of buying it. That was until somebody listed it locally for pretty cheap. The guy ended up winning it at his company raffle, and he had no use for it, so he threw it up on Facebook Marketplace, and here it is. Now, on that same very day that I picked that up, I found this in a local video game store, and I thought, hey, some of these games look awfully familiar, so I thought it'd be a neat video to compare the two against each other. So before we open these things up, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging. I'm going to start with this TV games video game system here, and it's obviously one of those things that you have a controller that plugs into your TV, and we can see the composite video here, and don't worry, I've got an adapter for that. And it says it's got 10 games built into it, so we see a couple up here. We've got Circus Atari, Missile Command, Pong, Asteroids, Adventure, Yard's Revenge, Real Sports Volleyball, Centipede, and then on the back we've got Gravitar and Breakout and Missile Command. So I think it's funny that it says a blast from mom and dad's past. At the time of marketing, that was probably correct. It may be a blast from grandpa's past now. Fun for all ages, 10 games, super portable, and master the classics. So when these things came out, they were very popular. There was one of these things for everything. Have a little tiny game system, plug it into your TV, even plug it into the minivan's TV so the kids can play in the back seat while you're driving. So I think we know what that is. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Atari 2600 Plus. And this is a recreation of the very famous Atari VCS 2600. And it comes with one controller. It comes with a game that's got 10 in one cartridge. We'll take a look at that and see what the games are. And it's just a small, it's not a micro version of it, but it's a smaller scaled down version of the 2600. Complete with all the little switches. You plug a cartridge into it, and it's going to allow you to play 2600 games and 7800 games if you have them. So let's take a look at the back. And here's the list of games: Adventure, Combat, starting to sound familiar, Dodge 'em, Haunted House, Maze Craze, Missile Command, Real Sports Volleyball, Surround, Video Pinball, and Yard's Revenge. Now, some of those are obviously the same as the other system, but I'm going to be honest, the other system, that cheap little plug-in your TV thing, probably has a better selection of games. Now, I know moving forward, Atari is selling recreations of their games and game cartridges, and even game cartridge collections to plug into this thing. So I think that's the long-term goal, is give you a couple games, make you buy the console, and then they're going to sell you some more games down the road. But it says it comes with the Atari 2600 video game system, a CX40 Plus joystick, a 10-in-1 game cartridge, a HDMI cable, and a USB power cable. Oddly enough, it doesn't come with the power brick, your actual charger. And I know a lot of electronics don't come with those these days, but if this was like a tablet that was rechargeable and had a battery built into it, then yeah, I would understand why it doesn't have a charger brick. Because you could just plug in your USB cable into something, charge it up, and then you'd be good to go. But this thing is supposed to be plugged into the wall all the time. So you're going to put it up by your TV, you're going to plug it into something, and you don't have something to plug it into. Now, I'm assuming that you could use this cable and actually plug it into your TV if your TV does have a USB port next to it. But I still think for another 50 cents that it would have cost them to put a little power brick in it, just do it. Alright, so let's go ahead and open these up and test them out. Let's start with the 2600 Plus. Alright, so we got the console itself, we got a controller, we've got an HDMI cable, we've got the little power cable, like they said. Here's our cartridge, we'll take a look at that more when we get the games going. And we get the quick start guide. Pretty easy. Plug this into your TV, plug your controller in here and plug this into your electrical socket. No, don't do that. Use a power adapter. But pretty easy setup here. So let's take a look at the unit itself. And this is probably, I don't know, about 3/4 the size of a normal one. It's got all the switches that you would imagine should be on there for at least the 4-switch version of the 2600. It's got some of the settings on the back here for difficulty. So you get your A/B switches for your difficulties, the controller ports, HDMI port. You've got a aspect ratio selector over here for 16:9 or 4:3. And then, of course, your power input. So yeah, it looks great. Feels great. You know, the build quality on it is good. It's a little lightweight, but it's not super lightweight. I'm guessing they skipped the metal plate in the bottom of this one. And then, like I said, we got this cartridge here, which is unique in the fact that it's got dip switches. And depending on how you set the dip switches is going to be which game that you get to play. Now, I'm a tiny bit disappointed that you've got 4 dip switches, which would be 4 bits. You got 16 total combinations of games, and they put 10 games in there, so they left 6 slots empty. Or did they? Maybe I'll pick one of the combinations that isn't selected here and see if they put some hidden games in. That'd be actually pretty cool. But I mean, how many freaking games does Atari have in its library? Give us an extra 6 more and fill this cartridge up. Alright, enough ranting. Let's go ahead and hook this thing up to a monitor and play a game. Alright, so I got everything hooked up, and I've got the game cartridge selected purposely to a dip switch setting that is not on here. So let's see if they put anything in extra. Well, we got the Atari logo. Loading game failed. Well, it was worth a try at least. So let's go ahead and select one of these games. Let's go ahead with Adventure. Plug it back in. Flip it on. Now at this point, from what I understand, this thing is just running an emulator, and it's just taking the game cartridge and loading it into the emulator at this point while it says loading game. And then it's just going to emulate it. And there we go. So there's Adventure. So we've got the game select and the game reset switches over here. So yeah, I know this is a little washed out, these pastel colors, but it is going through 1, 2, 3. And let's go ahead and put it on 1. Hit the button on our joystick here. How do we do it? Do we just go ahead and hit that? Yep. And here we go. So the joystick is a little stiff, but I'm guessing that's because it's brand new. But this is Adventure. Played it a million times. Got it on all kinds of different systems. But yeah, so that's, you know, it works. Now I'm curious what happens if we change one of the dip switches while the cartridge is in there. Probably nothing since it's already loaded in there, but I'm just willing to try it out. So let's flip this one down to combat. Oh. Okay, so it recognized that I did that, and it loaded it again, so that's kind of neat. And here's some combat. Everybody's played combat before. I think this is the game that came with the 2600 back in the day. But a game like this, you definitely need to have 2 players. So let me grab another joystick and let's plug it in and see if it works. So here's the 2600 joystick that I bought recently when I picked up, was it like 40 pounds worth of retro gaming stuff. I did a video on that. You can check that out on the channel. I'll put it right up here somewhere. And let's go ahead and just plug this in and see if we can get 2 players going. Oh, there we go. So you can't see it because it's off the screen, but let me go ahead and get player 2 going here. So it just uses the 9-pin standard DB9 connector. So I'm guessing any old Atari controllers that you had would work just fine with this. Speaking of which, I've got some paddles that I also picked up with the same big bulk of stuff. So let's put the paddles in and try a game that needs paddles. Well, scratch that idea, because none of the games actually use the paddle, so that makes sense. They sell a paddle that comes with the cartridge that has 4 games on it, and it's like Breakout and Warlords, all those ones that you'd expect to be on there. So no way to test that, because I don't have any of those games on cartridge form at least. So let's test out this switchback here for 16 by 9 by 4 by 3. So the 16 by 9 doesn't look bad, but I guess depending on the game, like a game like this, it doesn't look bad. But maybe some other games that have very iconic sprites may look a little stretched out. So it's nice that you can change that on the fly. Now I do have just a couple Atari 7800 cartridges, so let me grab one of those and we'll test that out with this. Alright, so here is a Atari 7800 version of Karateka, or Karateka, however you pronounce that. And let's go ahead and throw this in here and test it out. Now Atari does have on their website kind of a flowchart of all the different games that are compatible with it. It's not all-inclusive, but at least it's a good start. It's got most of the important games on there. But it looks like this one works. So let's see if we can control it. I don't have a 7800 controller, so let's see if I can get by with just a regular 2600 controller. Alright, so I can control the high kick, the low kick, the straight kick, the punches. I can get into the running position, but I can't seem to get any closer to him. Well, I can run right into him. So I'm going to say this is not fully compatible. So let me grab a different game. Alright, how about little Larry Bird versus Dr. J one-on-one basketball. This is a game that I had on my Apple II, and I guess this one's not compatible either. So we are 0 for 2 with the 7800 cartridges. And I think that's all I've got. So let me grab a 2600 cartridge and at least see if we can play that. Alright, so how about Asteroids? Now, this is a very iconic game. One that I was a little surprised wasn't included on the 10-in-1. But let's hope this one works at least. Okay, maybe not. Alright, so I just went and checked the website, and the website said that this game was compatible, so I tried it again, reseeded it, and it worked, and I'm not sure what this is. So maybe, yeah, maybe there's just something wrong with this cartridge itself. So let me go grab a different cartridge. Alright, so another iconic game, Missile Command. Another one sadly left off the list. And it looks like this one may be working. Yep, so these are good to go. Alright, so we got a good idea of what this 2600 Plus can do. Let's go ahead and open up that $10 game and see what it can do. Alright, so I felt a little dirty opening up that package there. A brand new, never opened package from the copyright date said 2002 on the bottom. So this thing's been sitting happy in its package for 22 years. And I just went and woke it up. Now, I can tell you that it was completely brand new based upon how it was taped in there and stuff. But I threw some AA batteries in there. It took 4 AA batteries. And what I'm using is just a little cheap AV to HDMI adapter. You can get these on Amazon, probably $10 or so. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And yeah, let's go ahead and turn this thing on. So we got the joystick, we got a reset button, the select and start button, single button up top here, and it boots up pretty quick. So here's our 10 games, and this doesn't look horrible. So let's go ahead and take a look at Yard's Revenge since we saw that on the other one. And it gives us a little rundown of what the game is and how to control it. That's some instructions we didn't have with the 2600 Plus. Yeah, this is a little fuzzy. You might not be able to see on the screen, but the edges of these sprites and stuff. Oops, that's the downside, hitting the reset button right on the front there. That's a horrible position for that. But yeah, it is a little fuzzy graphics-wise. But again, I'm not going through a nice scaler. I'm going through this cheap HDMI adapter. So let's go ahead and see. Yep. And this joystick feels pretty good. I mean, it feels identical to the other one. So nothing wrong with that. So let's see what some of these other buttons do here. Get the select, and that's going to be your game select, and then start. I guess that's needed for some other games. This game I just hit the orange button and it worked. Let's go ahead and hit reset and go back and see what some of these other games are. Let's pick one of the games that you would need a different type of controller, like Pong, or let's do Breakout. So Breakout obviously worked for both the paddle and for the joystick, so it should be no problem controlling this. Nope, it works just fine. Hit the start button on this one, so yeah, we needed the start button on that one. You can see a little bit of weird artifacting going on here. I'm not sure if that's this adapter or if it's the game itself. But yeah, so this thing works just fine. We got 10 different games to play. Some of the ones that weren't on the other ones: Asteroids, Breakout, Centipede, Circus Atari, Pong, Missile Command, Gravitar. Some pretty big names on this one that was not on the 2600. But again, I understand that they are either assuming that you've got the cartridges already, or they want to sell you the cartridges at some point. Now if we look at like this Asteroids game that I got here, you can see how much I paid for it at some little used game store, you know, probably a little nostalgia store, $1.99. So some of these very easy to get, easy to find games are going to be fairly cheap. Now that may change if this 2600 Plus gets a little bit more popular. Then maybe the price of the cartridges that actually work in it are going to go up some. But other than the fact that you've got to use this adapter here for this type of game, for 10 bucks or for whatever you find this for, I'm sure they were probably like 15 to 20 bucks when they were brand new 20 years ago. But for 10 bucks for these 10 games, I think this is a decent way to go. Now there's obviously no upgradability. This is the 10 games that you get with it. You can't ever add anything to it. And everything is going to be forced to be one player. Can't ever have another joystick plugged into here. I know some of the different systems that they've had over the years, especially like the flashback series of games that you can get those really cheap. Those would have like 60, 70, 80 games, 2 players. Sometimes they had wireless controllers. So if you just want a butt ton of games and 2 players and an easy way to do it, then some of those flashback series may be the way to go. But yeah, I just wanted to have a little fun little comparison between, you know, a cheap little system like this and something that is definitely not cheap, but that's because it's built well and it's really nice, and there's a lot of nostalgia baked in here, obviously. So just wanted to have a quick little fun comparison between the two, and really I think the use case is going to be what makes a difference. Do you just want to plug it in and play your favorite game, you know, real quick, and it happens to be on this list of 10, then yeah, this is the way to go. If you want to start building a collection of cartridges, you know, physical games, or if you already have a nice collection of physical games and you just want an easy way to hook this up to your TV over HDMI instead of having some weird adapter for your original 2600, just a modernized way of playing your old favorite games, then that's definitely the use case for this 2600 Plus. I personally don't have a huge collection of these. I've just got a couple just as showpieces really. So I think really the better deal for me was that GameStation Pro. So maybe we'll have to have a comparison video between the 2600 Plus and the GameStation Pro. If you'd like to see that, go ahead and drop me a little note down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I appreciate that thumbs up. If you want to see more, go ahead and check out the rest of the channel and hit that subscribe button. But that's going to do it for this one. I thank you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out. Man, I don't know what's going on here, but I better turn something off before this thing explodes.